Naivasha yesterday. They presented their concerns and changes they'd wish put in the particular draft as well. And you can find that story in your copy of your People Daily on page 4 therein. Once again, in case you missed it, you can get your PD straight to your phone. The number that you dial is *550*4#. Let's look at the front page of the Daily Nation now. Raila yields to Ruto BBI demands, says the Daily Nation. Whereas allies of both Mr. Odinga and President Kenyatta have previously slammed the door shut on any suggestion to reopen the report for amendments, the former PM yesterday promised pastoralist leaders that their concerns will be addressed. Will this pave the way for more changes by politicians and groups? That had been the key point of concern, that once they go down this particular road, as far as changes is concerned, it will prove to be a slippery slope and the changes might never stop. But that story is on page 5 of your Daily Nation. You can get the details of that therein. And even as you look at that, also matters COVID vaccine also addressed in your copy of your Daily Nation. New COVID vaccine offers hope, but Kenyans are cautious. This can be found in your pullout of the Healthy Nation therein. Just talking about how this particular vaccine, jointly developed by US and German pharmaceutical firms, 90% effective in preventing COVID-19 infections in ongoing trials. The companies announced yesterday, but Kenyans still not too sure on this particular issue. That story is in your copy of your Daily Nation. You can find the details of that therein. Moving it right along to the front page of the Standard now. Race to save the BBI. President Kenyatta and ODM leader Raila Odinga cast net wide to win support for handshake report and tame allies jostling for power. Senators push for clout and governors want gender clause on running mates changed. Pastoralists demand additional resources to address historical injustices, while MCAs seek extra cash. So everyone shouting the loudest, of course, on this particular issue and trying to bring the most clout they have to the negotiating table. This story is in your copy of your Standard. You can find it on page 4 inside. Also, talking about the first COVID-19 vaccine offering 90% protection. The first effective vaccine can prevent more than 90% of people from contracting the coronavirus disease. A preliminary analysis shows the vaccine has been tested on 43,500 people in 6 countries and no safety concerns have been raised. Seems like there could be a light at the end of the tunnel as far as this particular pandemic is concerned, if this vaccine from Pfizer is anything to go by. This story is on page 8 of your Standard today. And even as you look at that, of course, education bosses meet over 844. Ministry officials meet today to discuss transition from 844 to new system, with planned 2023 double intake posing as a headache. And this, of course, under the grey cloud of COVID-19 as well in schools. This can be found on page 10 of your Standard this morning. The details of that therein. Finally, from page of your Star today, Raila makes U-turn on BBI amendments. Ruto welcomes Odinga's pledge to amend report before the referendum. Uhuru, ODM leader, expected to meet governors and MCAs in Naivasha today. Of course, yesterday they did give their concerns. They presented some of the issues that would want to be addressed. Today, they meet the principles of this particular report and find the best way forward on that. This story is on page 4 and 5 of your Star this morning. So that's what you're waking up to as far as your headlines are concerned today. But also we're talking about matters BBI even as we move forward, because as they said, it literally seemed like it was cast in stone. But the line's changing as far as this particular document is concerned, and above and beyond, how is this beneficial to the citizens at the end of the day? Because we've heard MCA saying what they want, we've heard what the governor is saying, governors saying what they want. Where's the citizen in all of this? That's a question we address right here on the show as well. Welcome to K24 this morning. Welcome back. And even as we do that, of course, we always love it when you're part of the discussion. We have a question of the day that we pose to you, and we love it when you send us your thoughts and feedback. Let's have that up on screen. What would be BBI's biggest benefit devolution? As the principals meet the governors today, of course, what would be the BBI's biggest benefit to devolution? We'd love to hear from you. The WhatsApp number is at the bottom of the screen. You can also get me at I am Jeff Mote or at K24 TV. And we get to my panel as we discuss these issues of the day, starting in studio, joined by Bob Njagi. He's the chairman of the Free Kenya Movement. Good morning, Bob.
Morning to you, Jeff.
Welcome to the show.
Thank you. Thank you for having me.
Thanks for making time to be on the show as well. Also joined by Joy Mdivo. She's the Executive Director at the East Africa Center for Law and Justice. Good morning.
Good morning, Jeff.
Welcome to the show.
Asante sana.
Asante sana. Joining us on the conversation via Skype, Justice Minor. He's a governance expert coming in all the way from Bomet. Good morning, Justice.
Good morning.
How are you? How's the family on that side?
We are doing well, thank you.
Oh, fantastic stuff. Before you went on, I saw one of the young ones whiz by at the back right there. So I think right now they've been told, now we are live, we are going on. So let's get right to it. Even before you talk matters BBI, yes, I know we don't have any medical professionals on this panel, but it is a big story, this one, the COVID vaccine causing excitement. But we're also having a situation, Joy, where Kenyans are still a bit cautious. They've had so much going on with vaccines before. They're already saying that Kenyans are cautious, even if this could be the way forward.
We're having this conversation with my friends, and I was telling them, as far as BBI is concerned, I'm an anti-vaxxer, because other vaccines usually take years to develop and to refine and to ensure that they're good to go. But this one, this microwave, this pressure cooker vaccine, I let the rest of you just take it. I watch you for a few years, then decide whether or not we are getting the vaccine. Because I think this is what lends credence to some of those, not credence, but probity to some of the conspiracy theories we've been hearing. Because if indeed this is a novel virus that started, sometime last year, how come we have a vaccine that is 100% effective and safe this year? Doesn't make sense. It means somebody has been working on this for long, and there is something somebody is not telling us. And if the disease was released as a biowarfare, then should our government then be ceding the defense of its people to foreign powers, as it were, or would we rather get a homegrown solution that we are sure is safe for us? Because if they could release a disease, the cure could have something else with it.
Right.
So I'm one of those people who I am utterly skeptical about it. And like I said before, indeed COVID is ravaging Africa, but it's not as bad as the West. Let them go vaccinate themselves, let's watch them for a few years. After about 5 years now, they can bring it. Because as guys have got people to spare, we have the highest birth rates. I mean, we are at the level where we can afford to wait and see. Because like you said before, we've had situations, was it just earlier this year, the WHO actually admitted that some of the polio vaccines that they were giving children have reintroduced polio in places that it had been eradicated. You've had the concerns of some of the, like for example, the Catholic Church with the HPV vaccine. So I think Africa has come of age. Our sons have gone to school. Our daughters are fantastic scientists. Can we come up with homegrown solutions instead of depending on big pharma in the States to send us, or in the West somewhere, to send us something that they have developed there, they have tested there, and they come to Africa because they say, here, we can afford to lose a few people, so they want to test it on us. So on this COVID vaccine,
you're part of the cautious Kenyans.
one, I'm an anti-vaxxer. I'm not vaccinating.
Bob, I'll have you in on this one as well, because even the first time we heard about, Oxford University performing vaccine trials in Kenya caused quite an uproar on this one. Is it lack of knowledge on how the process works? Because you talk to scientists and they say that this really is the only way to get a proper vaccine. We need to be more embracing to this particular practice when it comes to vaccine trials and all.
Well, I'm not a professional in the health sector, but speaking as a Kenyan, I would want to agree with Joy.
You're also pretty skeptical.
We should not be quick to pick up any vaccine that has not been developed in this country, or in Africa for that matter. I believe a time has come when we as Africans should find our own solutions to our own challenges.
Right.
One of them being this kind of a pandemic. Again, a vaccine requires time to test and to be, proven that it is effective without any side effects. If this vaccine has been developed in Germany, I think the best thing would be for the Germans and the Americans to first consume it before spreading it to the rest of the world. We have bigger concerns than COVID-19 in Africa. We have issues of corruption, We have issues of bad governance. We have issues of, the upcoming referendum. We have serious issues that are actually troubling Kenyans as we speak, more than the COVID-19. I'm actually surprised at the kind of high-level interventions that we are doing towards this disease, whereas neglecting the other sectors of the country that are in problems, like the economy. I think the economy is in a bigger problem, and if we are to deal with the economy more than the COVID, we will be better off.
Okay. Let me get Justice in very quickly on this one as well, even as we move it along. Do you feel that this might be the silver lining in this grey cloud of COVID-19 as we move forward? And then from there, you might even decide to come back to studio in Nairobi, Justice, with this vaccine.
I I keep my fingers crossed. I want to take the whole, process of vaccine with a pinch of salt because it is very technical, very procedural. Before we begin to celebrate, there are a number of procedures that must be undertaken. There are a number of things that I think that must be proven. And in fact, even the numbers that we are being given, like the 90% effectiveness, are mere numbers. I think that can be confirmed in due course. If you read a lot of journals on the possible trials of vaccine on COVID-19, you have this feeling that I think the real results and the effectiveness of some of these COVID-19 vaccines can be confirmed within from June next year, 2021 to December 2021. As a moment, I don't think we have reason to celebrate as yet. Though the small steps, the baby steps we are making, of course, it gives us hope. It gives us room to kind of celebrate. But we still, the pandemic, I think the protocols at the moment are the only way we can be able to combat the menace and the monster of COVID-19. We still need to keep social distance. People must be told that we still need to put masks. We still need to ensure that when we have funerals, we keep the social distancing, keep the numbers down. The interaction, of course, we minimize. Those, at the moment, that is the only panacea to the menace of COVID-19, so that we do not get carried away by the prospect of a vaccine, and then we drop the cart down again. So I think generally we need to beat the drums of the COVID-19 protocols more than the trials that are being undertaken.
Okay, let's move it along and see what Kenya's medical community will also say as concerning this particular COVID-19 vaccine. That story is in your copy of your People Daily, by the way. You can get it in there as well. If you don't have your copy physically, you can get it to your phone. The number that you dial is *550*4#. Let's move right along to talk about BBI and deals being struck, demands being made, and irreducible minimums being given. That's where we are as far as this is concerned. Bob, I'll start with you on this one. As we stand at this particular point, you said referendum is a pressing concern. Right now, we need to get this out of the way. But when we hear what these people are talking about, for the governors, for example, it's really about them and their position. They're not talking about anything to do with members of their county, citizens in their area. Their issue is their running mate, who they'll pick to be in their executive. They don't want people from, members of the county assembly to be in there. And increasingly, it's seeming like this particular report is more for the political class. And Kenyans are feeling left out of this by and large.
Very true, Jeff. BBI is not at all for the people. It's actually a document that is being pushed down our throats by the state and by donor-funded interests. The people themselves have been left out of the conversation completely. But there is good hope and there is good news for Kenyans because BBI is not the only initiative. As I stand here today, I'm representing many Kenyans who are disenfranchised from the BBI process. And we have our own initiative, a people's referendum, which we began in early 2018, about 2 years back. We are gaining a lot of traction by the day because Kenyans are realizing that in this referendum moment, we cannot leave it to the politicians to direct the change of the amendments because all they would be interested in is sharing power at the executive. We want, as Free Kenya, to create a system in which the people can be able to exercise their sovereignty through a structured system of direct representation that brings the voice of the people at the center of governance and leadership in this country through what we're calling the people's governments as a third tier of governance in this country. So for the first time, we shall have the people themselves in the center of leadership and governance in every sphere of their lives, just like they're doing in Makueni County, where you have a people's government and you have the county government. So this is the epitome of public participation, and that is the direction we as Free Kenya Initiative are pushing the country towards.
Okay.
Yes.
Joy, I want to have you in on this one as well, because even as the two principals meet the governors and MCAs later today, Kenyans are looking at this and saying, okay, fine, as you go and talk about whether you want a female deputy governor or not, whether you'll get more money or not, as Bob also alluded earlier, the economy really needs saving. Some people are saying this should be the only thing President Uhuru Kenyatta speaks to for the rest of his term. We're looking at Safaricom having dipped its net profit for the first time in 9 years.
Yes.
That's how bad it is as it stands. And really, if that's not a sign that we should not be talking about politics, if it's not about business, if it's not about economy, don't have this conversation. Should they be thinking about that and moving in that particular direction?
In fact, when I read that Safaricom story of how they're borrowing money to pay dividends, I was like, Allah. Even Safaricom foolies us. It's one of those things that tells you by the things are thick right now. And I agree with you. There are very many things that need attention. The problem with BBI, you must understand, is that when it was started as a means to an end. And with politicians, the end really must justify the means. And so with Kenyans, I think what they're realizing, and you can see from the activity by their fellow politicians, they're taking it with the seriousness it deserves, because as far as they're concerned, they can say this thing, tupende tusipende, BBI is coming. And it's coming to a conclusion, whichever way we want to look at it. So they're preferring to have their foot through the door than to be left outside. And the problem, I think, right now is COVID was not something anybody anticipated.
Right.
And so in trying to navigate COVID as well as BBI, then there's a lot left to be desired. And I agree. This might be a good time for the President and the Right Honorable Raila Odinga to have a discussion and see, okay, so how best can we do this? Remember the big discussion between Honorable Raila and the IEBC on, oh, it only costs 2 billion. No, it's going to cost at least. We have to come to a place where now somebody sits down and crunches those numbers honestly. Somebody sits down and does a realistic, let's know what we can accomplish and what we cannot. Okay, so we wanted to reach the moon, but clearly we're only reaching the top of the trees. Can we make do with the top of the trees? And that reassessment, in my opinion, has to be done from a standpoint of a statesman rather than a politician. If we look at it as expediency for 2022, we lose out. But if we look at it in terms of we are leading people, we're not leading a flock of sheep. These are people with lives, with interests that matter. Because if you're even telling the Kenyans at the end of the day, we are bringing it back to you for a referendum. I've said it here before. As much as we're pushing for an uncontested referendum, it can be uncontested amongst the politicians, but bring it to the people, and the people show you how contested it is to them, and embarrass the president and embarrass all the proponents of. So I think time has come for a nice closed-door boardroom meeting where there's honest talk and say, look, this is what our country is facing. We're facing COVID. We've got our economy that's in the doldrums. KRA is not meeting any of its targets. The lenders are not lending anymore because they also have trouble at home. We have the issue of the education sector. There's double intake next year. This is what is on the table, gentlemen. What can we realistically deliver? What can we realistically shelve? What is a pipe dream? We better just forget about it. Because I think we've gotten to a place where there must be a recalibration. What we had intended to achieve and what our reality of the day is, are still, they're not in sync. And because they're out of sync, and I'm speaking this as a proponent of the process, if we cannot deliver it as we had envisaged, let's see what we can realistically deliver and go for that. Because it would be foolhardy to pretend as if we're trying to do a process that is for the people and it ends up hurting the people all the more. It's not right.
Right. Justice, I'll have you in on this one as well, because even as you speak about the changing realities of what has happened globally and Kenya as well, Joy says there should be some recalibration of our priorities. But it seems, as was said even before, the train left the station and everyone is talking about next year, June, we get this referendum done and dusted, regardless of what's going on now. How do we change this conversation? Because people are feeling like it was already decided by them. You know, this is their report, this is their document. They're going to do it. We'll have to just wait for June and decide what we'll be voting for or against.
I think what I get surprised about the whole train or the tsunami about BBI is what I'm witnessing, and I would want to characterize as the Loliondo politics. The politics of one man, one old man who has got all the solutions to our problem. Everybody is paying pilgrimage to Raila Odinga, and once you've had a chance to talk to Raila for 30 minutes, you give a press conference and said all your worries have been washed away by a mere, visit to Raila Odinga. Those are the symptoms of the Loliondo politics. The one old man in Tanzania who was called Abelikile Mwasapile, who you would meet and would give you a cup of a concoction of something, and you would come back and say, all my diseases have been washed away. And I think we need to move away. This one man who has got solutions to all the problems of the MCAs, the problems of the pastoralists, the governors are looking for the same old man, the former prime minister. So this Loliondo politics, I think, is what is killing us. We need to move away from this drama. And there's a lot of wheeler dealing in this BBI politics. I think there are no principles. They're just petty politics, because we were told initially that this shall not be open. Today, you only may need to visit Raila Odinga, and BBI will be reopened. So it is the only one man in this country who has got the magic key to close and open seems to be Raila Odinga. And to me, if we personalize an instrument that is going to govern us for a number of years, I think that is a tragedy. We need to move away from this and take the aspect of this BBI instrument as an instrument that is going to govern us and govern the children of our children, because we do not want to have another BBI in 2027. We do not want to have another BBI in 2032. So I think if there's a problem with BBI, we need to, the president and the deputy president and Raila Odinga need to call another conference, bring on board the entire country, if it is pastoralists, if it is the MCAs, if it is the MPs, the senators, because the next meeting again will be the senators. Another one will be MPs. And you have seen, as I said, it is wheeler dealing. People are demanding for a portion. Nobody is talking on behalf. When you will hear the MCA saying, we need to be made ministers, county executive members. We need to have salaries increased, if you have seen their demands. Nobody is talking about Mananchi. The governors are talking about having the right to either appoint their deputies from the opposite gender or something. The senators are talking about their powers. The MPs are talking about their powers. Who talks on behalf of Wanjik, and Chirono and Otieno of this world? So the problem with BBI, as I said, is that it's been reduced into a wheeler dealing charade.
As we look at this, Joy, we're almost on our first break. Raila Odinga met ASA leaders yesterday, and they already had what they called irreducible minimums. When you get into a room for negotiating, already saying this is where we draw the line, we won't pass if you don't give us these particular issues, is there room for consensus? Because if they meet governors, and governors also have the reducible minimums, and every person they meet, every group of people they meet has the same, how does this process move forward?
In fact, what I'm afraid of is ending up with a document that has got so many compromises. At the end of the day, there's no congruence. Those who are bringing their irreducible minimums, if the irreducible minimums make it, now let's talk about the report as a destination. If the reducible minimums make it to their destination, they'll not care about what else has made it. They'll only care that their issues were actually there. At the end of the day, let us say Bob's irreducible minimums are there, as well as Justice's, as well as mine, as well as yours. And then now all our reducible minimums make it to the tape. Then now comes the implementation part. So it's been passed, now comes implementation. As you're implementing, for me, you realize you can't implement for Bob, because you didn't really factor what Bob wanted. You only looked at his in isolation. You can't really deliver for Justice, or if you deliver for Justice, then you can't really deliver for Jeff. And that's what I'm afraid of. The ones who are writing this report are really trying to come up with this balancing act, where you're trying to weave certain principles and doctrines through the entire document. When you come and do the pile on top without any rhyme or reason, then it tells me one of two things must happen. Either we have a BBI 3, where now we just reopen it again, and have the team retreat again and streamline it again. So now incorporating everybody and everything else. That is one. Or secondly, we risk passing a document that has all this other baggage added on, and when we come to unpacking it, we deal with the aftermath. What that tells me is there's some things that will be passed, quote unquote, with the BBI, But when it comes to implementation, that'll be impossible, and we'll have what we've had with the 2010 Constitution. What did you want us to do? We really can't deliver this, even if we promised you. Then it will be, oh, it's been betrayal, it's been conmanship. And what we have been trying to cure with the BBI process will become the BBI process.
Okay, let's take a short break at that particular point in time. As we come back after the break, of course, discuss these issues further, see how we get forward on this particular one as well. Even as the principals meet the governors and MCAs today in Naivasha, is this how they move forward on these particular issues and what really needs to be addressed? Again, the gender issue rearing its head, and this is where they always have the biggest divide when it comes to that particular gender issue. Discuss that after the break right here on K24 this morning. Don't go too far.
Atusumbuani. And you know, like what I was saying, what ends up now is you adding things without considering if I add this. Kidney failure, he had to do whatnot. So he had gotten to a place where even the doctors are prescribing medicine, they're looking at all these other medicine he had and what they want to prescribe and how the reactions are to both. So they had a delicate balance. You couldn't just say, oh, it's headache, kunywa mara moja. You couldn't. With him, you just couldn't. You couldn't even recommend drinking water unless you knew how extra water was going to have. It's the same thing with this BBI thing. They have balanced it. Then they just come and start throwing things on top. You get somewhere, by the way, you're like, okay, imepita, now let's implement.
And what about these things saying?
For?
He's saying that they were told to sign Naha Kusoma, final draft.
But it's true.
So he wasn't lying even when Kina Mwangi say...
No, the bit that is, how do I put it? I don't want to use the word dishonest, but less than candid of him, is that all along, they kept working with the different groups. So they had a good idea of what was in the final report. But I can believe the fact that he did not get to read the final report before signing, because neither did we. We worked on the document, yes, but you know, you work on a portion of the document. I didn't see the complete document until after it was released. So then if you ask me, did you see the document before? I'm like, no, yeah, my name is on.
Welcome back. This is the second half of our newspaper review, looking at how we move forward with this particular BBI process, of course, even as it's opened up for possible changes moving forward. Is this the way we actually get a non-contested referendum? Key point of concern. What would be BBI's biggest benefit to devolution? Once again, what would be the BBI's biggest benefit to devolution? That's a question of the day. We'd love to hear from you. The WhatsApp number